The Gemara in the Sugya of Chanukah has an expression that the person should light b'tefach hasamach, he should light the menorah b'tefach hasamach labayis, right near his bias. If a person will light in Times Square, allowed to have the whole nature of the mitzvah is pisum nisa. So if you light in Times Square, you'll have a much bigger pisum nisa, but they won't be yotzei. The halachah has to be samach labayis. In the days of the Gemara, they lit outside, and for many generations, we light inside. There's a machlokes Rashi and Tosfos on the Gemara. The Shulchan Aruch paskins like Tosfos that you can light in your bayis, al Pesach habayis. In the days of the Gemara, they had a chotzer, had a lot of batim, and there was an area that was enclosed with a wall that everybody used together. They would have picnics there, they would read books there, they would get a sunbathing there. That was the chotzer, and then there would be a mavui. So Tosfos says you can light not only a Pesach habayis, it's better to light, the further away you light, the more pisum nisa you're going to get. But if it's too far away, then it doesn't relate to your bias. So you have to light in such a way that it relates to your bias, either in the bias or Pesach habayis. And Rashi said that's as far as it goes, al Pesach habayis. And the Mishnah Berurah points out the Rashi doesn't stand alone. There are other Rishonim who agree with Rashi. But the Shulchan Aruch paskins like Tosfos, you can even light in the chotzer, while Pesach HaChotzer on the outside, Pesach HaChotzer. That's a question whether this still applies Bizman Hazeh. The Redinim, if you ever learn Erevin, the opening Mishnah, the Redinim, there's a din of a bias, a chotzer, and a mavui. So there are differences, halachah l'maisa and Erevin, differences with the Rabbanon. On the level of the Raisa, there are no differences between a mavui and a chotzer, but there are differences between a bias and a chotzer. The definition of an ear, where is it relevant that you have an ear? Let's say you read the Megillah for Purim. You read the Megillah on Purim, but if you live in a kfar magdim aliyah maknisa bizman ba'isheni, the practice was that those who lived in little villages and a kfar, it doesn't have the din of an ear, so they have the akula that they can read the Megillah on the Monday or Thursday before Purim. If Purim falls out on any day other than Monday or Thursday, bizman ba'isheni, they had the kula that if they want to, they can use the kula to read the Megillah Monday or Thursday before. So what's the definition of an ear as opposed to a kfar? Let's say ear hanidachas, he burned down the whole city, has to have the status of an ear. So an ear, or ayoros hambekapes chaim, Rosh Benun, has special dinim. What's the definition of an ear? So the Mishnah appears both in Erevin and in Erechin. The Mishnah says an ear has to have 3 chatzeres. Doesn't have to have mabuas, 3 chatzeres. How close do they have to be? The Gemara never says. You have 1 chatzer in New York and 1 chatzer in Minneapolis and 1 chatzer in Los Angeles, so all the United States is one big ear. Not mistaber. You insist the 3 chatzeres have to be touching each other, have to be contiguous. It wouldn't seem so. So Tosfos says, how close do they have to be? So the Shulchan Aruch quotes that Tosfos have to be within 70 amma b'shiraim to each other. That's a shir deraisa, within 70 hefamas to each other based on a pasuk. So you have to have gimel chatzeres. Then you have to have a minimum population. The Gemara has in the first paragraph, machlokes hatanoim, what's the minimum population that you have to have, that it should have the din of an ear? So we paskin 100 people. 100 people, let's say you have a motel where you have 100 people at any given time, but they don't stay more than a week. Everybody they just stay there 2 days, then they take a different flight to somewhere else. So you have to have 100 people who live there kavua. What's the definition of kavua? That's the question. How long? Kavua means what? 30 days. The Gemara has sometimes dinim 30 days you live there, sometimes then you live there 12 months. Here I think the Mishnah Berurah says 6 months. Difficult. Where did 6 months come from? The Gemara never has 6 months. It's a question. So we have the definition of so chotzer plays a role on a din deraisa. You have to have gimel chatzeris. Chatzer is an area that has a mechitza around it, and it has a minimum of 2 batim inside the chatzer, so that makes the status of a chatzer. So in order to be considered near, you have to have a minimum of gimel chatzeris, shouldn't be too far away from each other. Then a mavui is an area that has a mechitza around it, that has 2 chatzeris opening into it, minimum of 2 chatzeris opening. They still have some like that in New York. They still have, years ago they used to have a lot more. So there are more rights that ein lona din mavui bizman hazeh. We don't have a din of a mavui. Why not? So he quotes it from the Chumas Hadeshin or the Marik, one of the early Achronim, who set up the whole system of mitzvahs the way we observe them now. So they say the reason why we don't have a mavui because you don't have a chotzer. A chotzer means, let's say I live in an apartment building. So there are a lot of people have apartments, and then there's a hallway. We don't eat in the hallway. We don't read books in the hallway. You go shopping and you take your shopping wagon and you stand in the hallway for 2 seconds till you open up all your 3 locks on your door, and then you take stuff inside. We never sit in the hallway and carry on conversations. So that's what the Ramah says. Ein lona din mavui bizman hazeh. There is certain kulas in a mavui. So the Ramah said we don't have those kulas because it's not legally. It's not called a mavui because we don't have a chotzer. So that's a question. If you don't have a chotzer bizman hazeh, so there's no din ir. We don't have any din ir, and you usually assume that all the people who live in an ir have the same tchum. Everybody has the same tchum. Every city, the Mishnayos have in Maseches Eruvin, you visualize every city as if it's a rectangular shape. If it's approximately, let's say Manhattan is approximately a rectangle, so you just fill out the rectangle. If it's in an amoeba shape, so how are you going to fill that out? So then so you go the northernmost house or the easternmost house, and you make it into a rectangle. Then you have Shiva Mama outside of that is the Burush Alir, and Alpai Mama out of that is the Tchum Ha'ir. So we always assume that all the people who live in New York, you can walk miles in New York, it's all one big city, and you can go, you're not going chutz l'tchum. The tchum begins outside of the city. But if that's true, that ein lona din chotzer bizman hazeh, then it should be ein lona din ir bizman hazeh, because the Mishnayos have a definition of an ir, both in Eruvin and in Erchen, for dinim and kol terakula, that it's not enough, not enough the minimum population. You have to have also gimel chatzeres, so there's no din of ir bizman hazeh. So you can't walk more than Tchum Shabbos is 1 mil. 1 mil is 22.5 minutes. So if you're walking straight in the city, you can't walk more than 22.5 minutes. How can it be? So the Marsham asked that kasha. Marsham had a horus that's called Das Torah. So the Marsham says, it's okay if you have the population of 100 that has a din of an ear. The Pashtus is not either or, either 3 chatzeres or population. Pashtus says you need minimum population of 100 who have to live there kavua, whatever the definition of kavua is, and you have to have also the gimel chaseres. You need both. It's not one or the other. So that's a serious question. How is anyone allowed to walk more than 22.5 minutes? That's a very chutz l'tchum. Every person should be, his house should be his bias, and then you draw alpine mama around it. An ear is a din, you make it rectangular shape. If it's not an ear, it's a person lives all alone in the mountains, so he draws a circle. He doesn't have an ear, he doesn't have gimel chatzeres, he just draws a circle, and the distance is 1 mil. How far can you go in 22.5 minutes? That's a mil, alpine mama. Yeah. So that is a problem. How are we allowed to walk within a city more than 20 minutes? But the bottom line, the Ramah says that we're choshesh for that. Ramon Hilchas Eruvin says from the earlier Achronim, I think so in Trumas Hadeshin or the Marik, one of them, they say ein lona din mavi because ein lona din ir, because ein lona din chotzer. So if you don't have a din chotzer, then you can only light in the bayis or Pesach habayis. You can't light further in. So that's the problem over here. Let's say you have a dormitory. So a dormitory probably is a din chotzer, because the boys walk in their towels and their underwear, they walk in the hallways. It's not like the hallway in an apartment house. They all use the showers in the same place. They all walk into each other's apartments. Maybe the hallways in a dormitory are a chotzer, but if you're going to light in a further place, let's say the fellow lives on one floor in a dormitory, then he's going to light on a different floor. He's going to light in the lobby. The lobby is not his chotzer. The lobby maybe is a different chotzer, but it's not his chotzer. A lobby, a hallway on a different floor. That Pashta says that's not his chotzer. So that's very questionable if you would say. So the Gemara has klolim. The Gemara at the end of Erevin has klolim. How do you determine which is beso? It should be relevant. If you look at the Mishnah Berurah, put it all together, it's relevant for a few dinim. It's relevant. Let's say there's an apartment building, so it has 100 tenants. So 98 of the tenants live there kavua for years and years and years. And then 2 apartments, they rent it out every week to somebody else. Nobody stays there for more than 30 days. Everybody stays there a week or 2 and they go. They rent it out all the time to somebody else. So the Gemara says the contrast between if you have a hotel, well, the hotel is fully furnished. That's a different story. So they're all guests by the hotel owner. So you don't need an eruv v'chatzeres there. But let's say you have an apartment building and it's not furnished. So 98 tenants live there kavua, whatever that means, kavua, and the 2 every week someone else moves in. So that's called achsenoi. That's a taisus in Erevin, that if someone lives there less than 30 days, is an achsenoi. If you live there more than 30 days, you're not an achsenoi. You're one of the bnei abayis there. So the Gemara says achsenoi doesn't have to participate in the eruv v'chatzeres. When you make an eruv v'chatzeres, the 98 families who live there kavua need an eruv v'chatzeres, and the 2 who are only achsenoim, in contrast to those who live there kavua, they're all going to live there. The 2 are going to live there less than 30 days, so they don't have to participate in the eruv v'chatzeres. They don't have to have a shutfus in the box of matzahs. What else is it relevant for? Whether it's my bias or not, it's not called their beso. If let's say it's a hotel and nobody stays there for more than 30 days, nobody stays there. People just stay there a couple of days, couple of weeks, and they go. Then everybody's on the same level. So then everybody is. So then they would ask on each other, unless you say the hotel is fully furnished. So then there's no problem of erevin. You don't need an erev. But the question is it beso or not? So if everybody's living there aroi, everybody's an achsana, everybody's less than 30 days, so they're all on equal footing. So then it is called beso. If they use the hallways, if some people are there temporarily and some people are there permanently, so then those who are there temporarily, it's not called beso. But if no one's there permanently, so it's called beso of everybody who is there. So the Gemara has, what's the significance, whether it's called beso? So it's relevant for eruv v'chatzeres, so you have to have a shutfus or not. Relevant for Tchum Shabbos. Where do you draw your Tchum? Let's say a family, I know there's a family in Teaneck, they have 2 homes on 2 different streets, far apart from each other. So the children all sleep, now probably all the children are married, but before they all married, all the children slept in one building and the parents slept in the other building, but everybody ate by the parents. So the shaila is the children who sleep in that building and they eat over here, which is called beso, the makam pita, the place where the food is, the pas, or the makam lina, the place where they sleep. So the Gemara starts off presenting as if it's a machloikis, and the Gemara says no machloikis. Sometimes makam pita garm, sometimes makam lina garm. So it's relevant for which building did they aser, if the other people there, did they aser if they only sleep in that building but they eat over here, so which building did they aser that they have to have a shutfus in the box of matzahs, is relevant for Tchum Shabbos. If it's not in the middle of a city, if you don't have a big city, say the whole city is Tochat Tchum for everybody who lives in the city, so you just draw a circle around the house where you live. So which is their makom, which is their bias, the place where they sleep or the place where they eat? So that's a question discussed in the Gemara. Then the Mishnah Berurah puts it together with where do you light Neres Chanukah? You have to light Neres Chanukah the beso. So which is beso, the makam lina and the makam pita? And the same din is regarding where do you light Neir Shabbos? So the Mishnah Berurah puts them all together. The Gemara has a few of them together. The Gemara in the Eruvin puts a few together. The Tchumen with the Eruvi Chatzeris and Halachas Nevis Chanukah, Halachas Nevis Shabbos. Mishnah Berurah puts it all together. So the Gemara said there is no machlokes whether Makom Pita, Makom Lina. Sometimes Makom Pita, sometimes Makom Lina. The Ramah in Shulchan Aruch quotes this from the Tshuvas HaRashba, that if there are two places, one place where you eat, one place where you sleep, so you light in the place where you eat. So some people think you have to light in the dining room as opposed to the bedroom. It doesn't mean dining room, bedroom. If you have an apartment where you have a dining room, bedroom, kitchen, and everything, you can light any room you want, whatever you have maximum pisomei niso. It means if you have two different apartments in two different places, in one apartment you always sleep, one apartment you always eat, like over here, people sleep in one dormitory, then they eat in the cafeteria. So which is called Beisa? So one of the rules is, let's say, once every couple of months they ask me to speak in the yeshiva on Friday night. So I eat in the yeshiva on Friday night, but I'm going to go back and go to sleep at home. So the home where I sleep is my home bikvias, all year long. And I'm going to sleep there tonight also. The place where I eat is only temporary. Once every couple of weeks they ask me to eat in the yeshiva. So if you have one is kavua, one is aroi, so the one that's kavua is called beisa, not the one that's aroi. What if they're both kavua? In Europe, they used to have the boys would learn in the yeshiva, and they would set them up. They should eat by balabatim. So the balabatim didn't treat them nicely. They used to treat them like stepchildren. In Yiddish, that's it especially. Treat them like a stepchild. So they would give bigger portions to their own children, and the yeshiva guys who would eat by then, they would give smaller portions. Wouldn't give many doubles. So they felt uncomfortable there. And when they slept in the yeshiva dormitory, they would kid around, they were happy over there. When they ate by the balabatim, they was a little uncomfortable. So the Gemara said the one that's more comfortable is called Beisel. You forget about Makom Pita, Makom Lina, these are the two that you consider, but the klal is the one that's more comfortable. Magen Avraham says a klal that's important is if one, let's say the cafeteria you have, on a Shabbos you have 150 people eating there at one time. The dormitory room, you don't have so many people. You just have 2 people, 3, 6 people, whatever. How many people you have in a dorm room? Not so many. So the one that's more private is considered Beisa, as opposed to the one that's more public is not considered Beisa. One that's more private. So these are the klolim that we should follow. Then Beisa, let's say someone is away, he's going to be in Eretz Yisrael on Chanukah. So his parents are lighting a single boy. So his parents are lighting them there in their home. But he's not home. So he's yotze with the adlok at home. The Gemara says one of the Amoraim says when he was single, he always had us leave the base medrash in order to be madlik the menorah. You have to be madlik when there's still people walking around. New York never goes to sleep. But in the days of the Gemara, after half an hour or so, everybody went to sleep. The streets were not lit up, so it was pitch black. It was dark on the street. So the Gemara says, the Amora, when he was single, he had to run home in order to bench Chanukah, that he went back to the base medrash to learn. After he got married, so he realized his wife is going to light Neres Chanukah, and he's going to come home later, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. He'll come after he finishes learning. So it's, how come he's yotze with the wife's adlok? Because it's Beiso. Why is it Beiso? He's in the same city, and he's going to go there. Or even if he's traveling, he's going to get there, he's going to be there tonight. So whoever lights in his home is moitzi him. Is yotze with the hadlakas haneres, because it's called Beiso. But if he's in the other side of the world, the Pashta says that it's not called Beiso. Chacham Ovadia writes not so. He used to tell all the children who were learning in Eretz Yisrael, they don't have to be madlik neres. They're yotze with the parents hadlaka. Parents live the other side of the world. But Moshe also writes in his Chuvas, he assumes that you're yotze with the hadlaka on the other side of the world. He just raises a problem. He says if the husband's on a business trip in New York and the family lives in Los Angeles, so Los Angeles, the Zman Hadlok is 3 hours later than New York. So the husband can rely on the wife, because in New York he would be able to be he'd light 3 hours later. New York never goes to sleep, so he could be madlik neres 3 hours after the shkia. So his wife is going to light. In Los Angeles, that's a good zman for him. But if it's the reverse, The family lives in New York, and the husband is in Los Angeles, and the wife lit Neiris in New York at this man. But by the husband who's in California, that's 2 hours too early, 3 hours too early. So Moshe says, in that case, he's not Yotze. I thought you're never Yotze. If the husband is on the other side of the United States and he doesn't plan to come back tonight, so it's not based on. I thought it was a pashut, double pashut like that. There's a din of derech rechoika. Derech rechoika by Korban Pesach. If the person, you have to eat the Korban Pesach in Yerushalayim. So where are you? This is a question. This is Rashi and Taisan. Where are you at Chatzos on Erev Pesach? Where are you at Chatzos? At noon, because the Chiyuv Korban Pesach begins at Chatzos. So if you are within Tesvav Mil to Yerushalayim, then and you plan to be there tonight, you plan to come there, so then it's considered as if you're in Yerushalayim, as if Yerushalayim is your makom. That's your makom. But if you are b'derech rechoika, even though the Gemara says he's going to go by a camel, he's going to get there. He's not going to walk by foot. He's going to go with a quick means of transportation by camel. He's going to get to Yerushalayim before the Shkia. But since the normal way of traveling in the days of the Bais Sheni was by foot, so by foot he's not going to make it, even though he doesn't plan to go by foot. That's called derech rechoka. So there's an institution of a person relating to another makom where he isn't. If he plans to go there today, if he's close enough and he's going to arrive later on, then that's called his makom. There's such a din in Avelos also. There's such a halacha. If the family is sitting shiva, and then the son comes to visit his parents, and he comes to the home, he sits. They didn't have telephones years ago. They didn't have email. Had no telephone. So the son comes to visit the parents. He walks into the house. Everybody's sitting shiva. Somebody died. So he comes on the 6th day of shiva. So the Gemara says he finishes the shiva with them. If he comes b'makom korev, what's makom korev? 1 day's travel. If he was when the shiva began, he was within 1 day's travel. By Korban Pesach, it depends on a half a day's travel. Why half a day? Because the Chiyuv Korban Pesach begins at Chatzos, and you have to bring the Korban Pesach before Shkia. So it goes, how far can you travel in a half a day, from Chatzos to less than a half a day, from Chatzos till the Shkia. But over here by Avelis, it's 1 day, a full 1 day's travel. So if he comes b'mi makom karev, then he relates that that's his bias. The Beis HaOvel is his bias, and he ends the shiva with them. That's a shaila. The Gemara says, it was man b'aysheni. They record in the Mishnah, it was a man b'aysheni. It depends on how much can a person walk a half a day. Where is he at Chatzos on Erev Pesach? Will he arrive in Yerushalayim by the Shkia? So the Nadi Behuda's Talmidim had a big debate. They invented the railroad at that time. So the shaila was, it still depends on how far a person can walk by foot. Today, no one's going to walk by foot such a long distance. You're going to take a train. So maybe the din should change. Maybe Bizman Hazeh, it should depend on how far you can get by train. Or today, maybe it should depend how far you can get by airplane, depending where you go. You don't go by airplane from Manhattan to Queens. Go if it's far away. If it's close by, you go by car. You don't go by airplane. If it's far away, you go by airplane. So that was a shaila. So they said, B'neged to Korban Pesach, maybe the din doesn't depend on 15 mil away. Maybe that Mishnah was only Bizman HaTanoim, Bizman Ba'isheni, that was the normal form of transportation. Most people will walk by foot. Even though this guy's going to go by camel, he's going to get there in time. There's derech rechoka, and he's not Yotze Korban Pesach. But maybe now the din should change. Maybe derech rechoka should depend on how far you can get by traveling by train. So the Talmid and Nadi Behuda, they had the machlokes. So they said, when you get to Korban Pesach, it's not relevant Bizman Hazeh. We hope when the third Beis HaMikdash will be built, there'll be Tchias HaMeis, and we'll ask Moshe Rabbeinu what the din is. Well, what do we do Bizman Hazeh for the din of Avelos? There's a din of derech rechoka and b'mi makom kar, b'mi makom rochek there. So they said that's the klal in Avelos, halacha keteva nekel ba'avel. Whenever there's a machlokes in Hilchos Avelos, safek Avelos l'kula, so you go l'kula. So the shaila is, if so today you can get from anywhere in the world to anywhere within 1 day. No. Is there any place in the world maybe the North Pole, I don't know. But you can get from Australia to New York within one day. Mamish, the other side of the world. Getting anywhere. So Moshe Feinstein said, it can't be. It can't be. Everyone's going to, the normal traveler is going to travel by jet plane. So you can always get there within one day. So you did away with the whole institution of Derech HaChoika. He said you can't erase a whole din in the Chumash. There's an institution in the Chumash about Derech by Korban Pesach. By Avelis is only the Rabbanon. So Moshe thought you have to limit it. So he thought you have to limit it. It has to be on the same continent. If on a different continent, even though you can arrive within one day, it has to be, that doesn't count. That's the Derech HaChoika. A lot of the people applied this din, and Rabbi Moshe held that it was incorrect. Some of the children go with the Orient Eretz Yisrael to the Kfura, and the children who stay behind began the Shiva here. And then when the children come back, so they terminate their Shiva with everybody else, even though their Shiva began later. Their Shiva only began after the Kfura. So it's sometimes going to be 1 or 2 days after the children who stay behind. So that's so Rav Moshe held that that's not correct. If it's a different continent, it's not called Bami Makom Korev. He thought you have to limit it. So the Pashtus says that all of these rules apply by Hadlokas Neiros Chanukah. So if a person is out of town and people are lighting, his parents are lighting in their home, so the Pashtus says he doesn't plan to come home. If he plans to come home tonight and it's a Makom Korev, so then you can say that's his bias. But if he doesn't plan to come home tonight, the Pashta says that he's not Yotze. I thought the Pashta says that you're not Yotze. The Mishnah Brura has a Chiddush, an original Chiddush. I don't think he quotes it from anybody else. He says, let's say the children married and they come with the grandchildren to visit by the parents for a week and a half. They're there all the 8 days of Chanukah. So he says, from the perspective of Chanukah, they're there li'olam void, because they're there the whole Chanukah. So from the perspective of Chanukah, they're there the whole day long, the whole time li'olam void. So this is a big machlokes in the beginning of Sukkah. The Gemara has a din. A person has a Sukkah with the Schachter l'mayla me'esrei mamos, so you're not Yotze. So what if you put a mattress on the floor, put a few mattresses on the floor, and now the Schach within 20 amos. He's sleeping on top of the top, maybe within. So the Gemara says that mattresses do not become bottled to the floor because you don't plan to leave it there forever. So how long do you have to have in mind to leave it there? So that's it's machlokes Rashi and Aran on that Gemara. What if he plans to leave the mattresses there for the whole Yontav of Sukkot, from the beginning to the end? They say from the perspective of Sukkot, it's daily olam void. So therefore the ground level is on top of the top mattress. So they say no. Bit l'olamis, you plan to leave it there for half a year. Not you plan to leave it there the whole day, all the days of Sukkot. So let's say the Gemara has it in. There's a mace in a room, and the Kohanim want to go. Mace in the room next to the shul. The Kohanim want to daven in the shul. So if there's an open door, so they can't. The Tumah goes through. What if there's a door that's closed, but you can easily open it? So in Shulchan Aruch they quote the Taisus and Bava Basra. We spoke about it last year, I think. If you have a crack on the bottom, over here, our doors do not touch the floor. If it would touch the floor, it would scrape the floor, it would scrape the door. So usually, especially if you have carpets over here, so you have it a half an inch above the floor, sometimes more than a half an inch above the floor. The door doesn't go. So even if the door is going to be closed the whole time, you're not going to open it, but because there's a slight opening and the door is not locked, it's just that it's closed now, so the Kohanim are not allowed to go there because the tumah goes out. What if they close up the whole door? So then the Kohen is allowed to go, because right now the tumah doesn't go. So the Gemara says, what did you put there on the bottom to be soisei? So if you put, let's say, some clothing or some food, not junk, you put something that you're going to use and you plan to take it away, so that's not called a stima. That's not called a stima, and the tumah still goes through. But if you put something that's junk and you don't need it, you're not going to use it, so that is called a stima. So the question is, let's say they put a steamer by the door, by the window. There's a window that goes from the shul into the room next to the shul, and the dead body is in the room next to the shul. And they put some cardboard there to block up the window and to block the bottom of the door, and they plan to leave the cardboard there until after the Chevra Kadisha takes out the mace. There's a different entrance. There's a different entrance to the room where the mace is. One entrance to the shul, another entrance to outside. So they plan to leave the cardboard steamer there until after the Chevra Kadisha will take out the mace. That's the last daf in Shabbos. The last Mishnah in Shabbos talks about that. So there's a machlokes. Taisus has a machlokes. How long they have to plan to leave it there? You have to leave it there. Plan to leave it there for 6 months, or no? Calls mansha ameishon. From the perspective of tumas mace, that's li'olam vod. After the Chevra Kaddish is going to take the mace away, so the whole thing is irrelevant. So that's a machlokes. So the Mishnah Berurah writes lahakal over here. He's something similar here. The family, the children and grandchildren went to visit the grandparents. They're going to be there whole Chanukah. They're not going to be there forever. So the Gemara, usually we say that if a person is an Achsanoi, is staying somewhere less than 30 days, he's not one of the Bnei Abayis. The only way for him to be Yotze is with Mishtata Pepruta. The Pashto says, Mishnah Berurah says not so, but many poskim hold like this. Rav Soloveitchik taught like this. If you're an Achsanoi, you can't light your own menorah. The only way for you to, because it's not Beiso. The other people live there kavua, and you're only there temporarily, right, less than 30 days. So the only way for you to be Yotze is to be Mishtata B'Pruta. You become Batal Agav the rest of the people. So the Mishnah Berurah said a Chiddush, if you're going to stay there all the 8 days of Chanukah, so from the perspective of Chanukah, you're there the Olam Vod. That's because the Mishnah Berurah paskens there, the Hokel, by the Tumah and by the mattress and the Sukkah, he paskens l'hakel. He thinks that over there also, if you're going to leave the mattresses there for the whole Yom Tov Sukkos, then that's the ground level is the top on the top mattress. You don't have to plan to leave it there for 6 months. If you plan to leave it all of Sukkos, from the perspective of Sukkos, it's daily on void. So this is the Mishnah Berurah has that. If you plan to be there all 8 days of Sukkah, all 8 days of Chanukah, so then it's Beiso. Then you can be Yotze with the Adloka there. Even though you're not going to be there for 30 days. You're only going to be there for the 8 days of Chanukah. But you're going to be there for all the 8 days of Chanukah. Then the Mishnah Berurah has another din. Let's say the children are visiting their parents and they live in the same city. So do they have to go home to light in their home? Or can they light where they are? Maybe their apartment is Beiso, because all year long they live in their apartment, and they're in the same city now. True, they're going to eat and sleep by the parents. They're not going to go back to eat and sleep in their own home on Chanukah, but they live in the same city. So the Mishnah Berurah thinks that if you live in the same city, even though you're not home at all for the 8 days of Chanukah, but you live in the same city, so that's called Beiso. That's called Beiso. You have dinim like that by Avelos, Beiso Ovel. In the Beiso Ovel you have to have Kfiyas Amita. So let's say all the Avelim are sitting Shiva in the parents' home. One of the parents died, so they're all sitting Shiva in the parents' home. But one of the children, or all of them, some of them have apartments in the same city. So is there a din of Kfiyas Amita? The Gemara said the din of Kfiyas Amita applies, even though they're not sitting Shiva there, they're sitting Shiva in the parents' home. But the Rishonim say that's only if it's in the same city. Let's say the children live in Chicago and they come into New York to sit Shiva in the parents' home. You don't have to tell the family in Chicago they should do Kfiyas Amita. That's not called Beiso Ovel. He doesn't relate. It's not called Beiso in a different city if you don't plan to go there. If you plan to come there today and it's Makom Karev, whatever Makom Karev is, the Shalu with the Nadi Yehudas Talmidim, so then it can be called Beiso. But if you don't plan to go back, then it's not called Beiso. But if it's in the same city, then it is called Beiso, the place where you usually are, that is called Beiso. So I think all of these are relevant. Mishnah Berurah has half of the story in Hilchos Hadlokas Neres Shabbos, half of the story in Hilchos Hadlokas Neres Chanukah. If you put it all together, this is the picture that you get. That sometimes the Makom Pita is Kaveh, sometimes Makom Lina, where you sleep, is Kaveh. Depending on, is it Kavua versus Aroi, so Kavua is called Beiso. And if it's comfortable versus non-comfortable, so the comfortable is called Beiso. And if one is more private than the other, so the one that's more private is usually assumed to be the Beisel. The other one, everybody all together. How can you call it Beisel? These are some of the Kololim over here. The Shad is, if this is so that there's such a concept, I put all the mattresses there for the whole duration of the whole Sukkot. So Mishnah Berurah is Mekel, from the perspective of Sukkot, is daily on avoid. Or Kol Zman She'Hamesham, you're going to put something to block the tumah from going through. So if you're going to leave it there, Kol Zman She'Hamesham, then it's called Eilomis. So why is it, let's say, the Achsanoi is rented an apartment just for 1 week, but he's only there less than 30 days, so he doesn't ask on the other people. He doesn't have the Achsanoi, doesn't have to participate in have a shutfus in the Baksamade Rubi Chatzeres, because it's not really based on. The other one is based on. The other people, they're there Kavua, he's only there, less than 30 days. I want you to say, but from the perspective of Shabbos, he's there on the board. He's there the whole Shabbos, not going to go somewhere else. I want you to say that idea that the Mishnah Berurah Paskan Lahakel, from the perspective of Shabbos, it's going to be there the whole 24 hours of Shabbos. So I think the answer to that question is, there's a Rai from the Gemara increases, that all the Shabbosim are connected. I'm there, I'm going to be there Shabbos Parshas Vayeshev, but I wasn't there Shabbos Vayishlach, I'm not going to be there Shabbos Miketz, I'm just going to be there Shabbos Parshas Vayeshev. All the Shabbosim are connected. So if you plan to be, every single Shabbos you plan to be there. So that's Eilomis, from the perspective of Shabbos. The rest of the week, you're not going to be there. Every Shabbos I'm always in this location. So if all the Shabbosim I'm always there, then it's called Kavua. But if I'm only there one Shabbos and the other Shabbosim not, all the Shabbosim are connected. The Gemara, how do I know? The Gemara has a discussion. Let's say a person violates Ksiva. So you have to write Shtei Oisios in order to be Chayiv on Shabbos. What if he writes one Ois on Shabbos Parshas Vayishlach and one Ois on Shabbos Parshas Vayeshev? The Gemara has a whole serious discussion. Ayichay v'chat sanat. And they don't say, what's the shaychas? Vayishlach and Vayeshev are two different Shabbos. Meikar Adina should be mitzdarif. I should say all the Shabbosim are one big hemshech. The Gemara gives other reasons why it's not mitzdarif. But it would appear that on the level of the Raisa, all the Shabbosim are connected. So just because the fellow's going to be there this Shabbos, the whole Shabbos, all 24 hours, that doesn't become Beisam. It's still an Achsanoi. It's not Beisam. Unless it's going to be there 30 days in a row. Unless it's going to be there all Shabbos, plans to be there every Shabbos, plans to be there. So then it's called Beisam. There's such a Rashi and Psochim also that the Menchas Chinuch asks on. The Gemara says, when you make an Erev Tavshilin, if Yontif falls out on Erev Shabbos and you want to cook on Yontif for Shabbos, you have to have made Erev Tavshilin. Erev Tavshilin is only made the Rabbanon, and not are you allowed to cook on the Yontif for Shabbos without an Erev Tavshilin. Gemara asks why? Why are you permitted to cook on Yontif for Shabbos without an Erev Tavshilin? Achol Nefesh means you're going to eat it today. So the Gemara says, one suggestion is the Gemara has two suggestions, Rabban and Rav Chizda and Psochim. So one suggestion is that Hoyot, Oichal Nefesh, sets itself up automatically. Let's say, I live in a village, I'm the only Jew. No Jews live Terchat Chum. I have a lot. I'm going to make a Sheva Brachos or Bar Mitzvah in another half a year. So I want to start cooking, I want to start baking all the challahs on Yontif. I have often worked on Yontif. I want to bake 100 challahs on Yontif, but I don't plan to eat them on Yontif. I plan to eat them in another half a year. We're going to hold them in the freezer. So I want to cook everything today on Yontif, but I don't plan to eat it on Yontif. So the Gemara says one opinion, many say we pass like that. We pass on Hoyle. Theoretically you could have eaten up all the Jews from the city could have come, they could have eaten up all the challahs that you baked today. So then Oichal Nefesh sets itself up, it's considered Oichal Nefesh for today. But if you're the only Jew who lives in the city, there's no other Jews around, you couldn't eat up all those challahs today. When it's going to come to Bar Mitzvah, all the guests are going to come, so then they'll all be able to eat it on Shabbos. But there's no Hoyle, then it would not be permissible. So that's the way we seem to pass on Hoyle. Then the other Gemara has another opinion. You're permitted to cook on Yontif for Shabbos without an Erev Tavshilin. And after it's mutter. Why? because Tzorchei Shabbos Nasim B'Yontav. Why is it mutter? So Rashi says because Kedusha Achas. Shabbos and Yontav are Kedusha Achas. Okay, that's a big machlekes in the Mishnayos. But the Shabbos next to Yontav, is it one long Kedusha Sayayim, or you say no? Yontav has one Kedusha and Shabbos has a separate Kedusha. It's not one Kedusha Achas. We paskin shtei Kedushas. So that's why many Rishonim say, you paskin shtei Kedusha, we have to paskin the reason of oil. Why you're allowed to cook min Torah without an erev tashil and on Yontav for Shabbos. So the Gemara there raises the question. The Mishnah says, you don't bake the lechem aponim on Shabbos. You're going to put the new lechem aponim on the shulchan on Shabbos morning. You don't bake the lechem aponim on Shabbos. It's not derech Shabbos. You bake it on erev Shabbos. What if erev Shabbos is Yontav? You're not allowed to bake it on Yontav. You have to bake it on Thursday. And what if it's 2 days Rosh Hashanah? Before Thursday and Friday is going to be Rosh Hashanah, they have to bake the lechem aponim. Even in the Beis Hamikdash, they sometimes had 2 days Rosh Hashanah. Gemara explains how come. Beis Hamikdash is in Eretz Yisrael. So how come I'm 2 days Yontav? So the Gemara explains why. So if you have 2 days Yontav, Thursday and Friday, then you have to bake lechem aponim on Wednesday. Because baking a lechem aponim is not derech Shabbos. The Gemara asked, but if tzorchei Shabbos nasim b'Yontav, why can't you bake it on Yontav if Yontav is on Friday? You're going to eat it next Shabbos. If tzorchei Shabbos, I'm baking it today on Friday, and you put it on the shulchan tomorrow on Shabbos, then they're going to sit there for a week, then we're going to eat it. Kohanim are going to eat it next Shabbos. The Gemara asks, if tzorchei Shabbos nasim b'Yontav, so why are you not allowed to bake the lechem aponim on Yontav on Friday and eat it next Shabbos? That's the Gemara's question. The Gemara gives an answer. So the Minchas Chinuch asked, but Rashi says that the idea of tzorchei Shabbos nasim b'Yontav is based on Kedusha Achas. How can you say Kedusha Achas? Friday is Yontav and next Shabbos? There are 6 days of chol in between. Tomorrow is Shabbos, then they're going to be 6 days chol. Then the next day is going to be the next Shabbos. So how do you say today is Yontav Friday, today is Kedusha Achas with next Shabbos? They're not adjacent to each other. They're not touching each other. That's Minchas Chinuch's kasha on the Rashi. So I think the answer is, based on that, Gemara increases. All the Shabbosim are considered one big hemshech. So if Yontav is on Friday and Kedusha Achas, Shabbos and Yontav asmuchim zelazeh constitute Kedusha Achas. We don't pass on like that. But according to that sheet of Kedusha Achas, and not only will it be Kedusha Achas, Yontav to this Shabbos, it'll be Kedusha Achas, but the next Shabbos also. Because all the Shabbosim are considered one big hemshech. So if you're baking today on Friday on Yontav, it's Ochel Nefesh for tomorrow and for next Shabbos and for next Shabbos. All the Shabbosim, even though they're not contiguous to each other, but Yontav is next to Shabbos. So all the Shabbosim in the whole year are going to be mitzurif to the Yontav. So that seems to indicate that is the idea. So we don't assume that the Shabbosim, each Shabbos is separate. There's a Mishnah Berurah also has an idea. Let's say you want to cook on the first day Pesach, but you plan to eat it on Shvi Shal Pesach. You don't plan to eat it today. You plan to eat it on Shvi Shal Pesach. So he says, Minat Torah, he thinks that's mutter. You're cooking on Yontav for Yontav. Shvi Shal Pesach. There are 5 days Chalamoid in between. So he says, no, but it's Yontav Pesach. It's the same Yontav. So you're cooking on the first day Pesach to eat it on the 7th day Pesach. He thinks that Minat Torah it's mutter. I think he writes that Midrabanan it's also, because you could have cooked it on Chalamoid. Why should you cook it on Yontav? Wait till Chalamoid. But I think he writes that Minat Torah it's mutter, that the first day Yontav and the 7th day Pesach are considered a hemshech of one Yontav. Anyway, but by Chanukah, that's the chiddush of the Mishnah Berurah, that if you're staying by a family for the whole duration of all the 8 days of Chanukah, then it's basel. You're not called an achsanoi anymore, because from the perspective of Chanukah, you're there the oil of wood. But if you're not going to stay the whole Chanukah, so then if you're going to stay less than 30, then let's say you're going to stay 25 days before Chanukah and another 5 days on Chanukah. So that's 30 days. So if you're going to be there 30 days, that's basel. Or you're going to be there a little bit at the end of Chanukah and another month after. So if you're going to be there for 30 days, then it's called basel. So you got to keep these Gemaras in mind when you want to decide about where you're going to light the Chanukah candle. You can't just light whenever you darn please. It has to be hadlaka b'beisa. The Gemara has, in the beginning of this sugi of Chanukah, the Gemara has two fundamental machloikes, and they go back and forth with that. One machloikes is that butter l'shtamish le'ora ner. You lit the Chanukah candles, and you have some money in your pocket. You don't. There's a $1 bill, a $10 bill, a $100 bill. So probably not going to be a $100 bill. A $1 bill or a $2 bill. Okay. So he wants to look close to the nearest to see. The Gemara has a machloikes. Rav Shmuel, are you allowed to be mishtamish la'ora ner? We pass on also mishtamish la'ora ner. Then there's another machlokes where the cups are zakuk lo, cups ain't zakuk lo. I lit the candles on one of the nights of Chanukah, and then after 10 minutes the candles go out. So is the din I have to relight it? I'm obligated to relight it. Kopsa means l'chabos means to put out a fire. So if the fire went out by itself, if you put it out, all the poskim say you have to relight it. But a kopsa me'eleho, it went out by itself, so you're mechuyev to relight it again in order to fulfill the mitzvah of as long as there was Chanukah to get the maximum bisumin. Isa should burn for the whole time that people are roaming around there. Or no, as long as it lit for a few minutes is good enough. So we paskin also l'hishtamish le'ora ner. And about kavsa we paskin enu zakuk lo. You're not mechuyev to rekindle. By kavsa there's a machlokes, the Ramah and the Taz. What if one lit neres Chanukah on erev Shabbos? So usually you light ner Chanukah either at Shkia or at Tzeitzah Kachavim. The Vilna Gaon thinks you should light right after Shkia, and the Baalei HaTosfos think you have to light after Tzeitzah Kachavim. So on erev Shabbos you don't light after the Shkia. You light before. So the Shabbos, he lit ner Chanukah on erev Shabbos, and then after 5 minutes, he didn't go to shul yet. He wasn't Mekabel Shabbos yet. He didn't have mincha yet. He wasn't Mekabel Shabbos yet. And then it went out, and it's still not Shabbos. Is he obligated to rekindle? He didn't even begin to fulfill a mitzvah. You fulfill a mitzvah when the Leres Chanukah lighting at night. If you light in the daytime, you're not yotzei Neres Chanukah. So if he lit the Neres Chanukah on erev Shabbos and kopsa, so there's room to say he didn't even begin to have the Kiyam mitzvah. It wasn't even a partial Kiyam mitzvah for part of the time. So maybe then, so the Taz thinks then it should be kapsa zakuk lo, you mechuyev to relight. And most of the poskim disagree with the Taz. They think like the Ramah, that even though we're not before Shabbos, that's I think I would have. It's not Shabbos yet. It's a different understanding of kapsa and zakuk lo. I would have said like the Taz. He didn't even begin to have the Kiyam mitzvah. Apparently they have a different understanding of why kapsa ain't a zakuk lo. What's the din if you're makar of karbanos? Let's say a karban oila. You have to burn everything, kula kolo. So let's say you put any carbon, you put the chelav, you put the emurim on the mizbeach. Then in the middle of the night it fell off on the mizbeach. You have to pick it up and put it back on. So that's a sugya in Zvachim dinim about that. That's called ahadurei poikin. Poikin means things fell off on the mizbeach, and you mechuyev lahadurei to put it back on the mizbeach. So the Gemara says, once it already turned to the ashes, then there's no chiyuv to put it back on the mizbeach. The mitzvah is finished. Shine. But if it didn't turn into ashes, so let's say it's charred, the whole outside is charred, and it fell on the floor. But if you put it back on the mizbeach, it'll burn some more. The inside will burn. The outside gets charred first, then it takes longer for the inside to burn. So the Gemara says, learns out from a pasuk, a din deraisa. If it happened before chatzos halayla, before midnight, then you have to put it back on the mizbeach. And if it happened after chatzos oisa equal, because it was charred on the whole outside. If it wasn't charred on the whole outside, you have to put it back on even if it's after chatzos halayla. But if it's charred on the outside and it fell off after chatzos, then you say chatzos oisa equal is considered as if the whole thing was consumed by the flame. You don't have to put it back up. So that's a little bit shaykhas with this topic over here. If you lit the ner Chanukah and it goes out in the middle, are you mechuyev to rekindle it? So if he blew it out himself, then you are mechuyev to rekindle it. If it blew out by itself, then there's a machlokes, we pass and you're not mechuyev. And erev Shabbos is the machlokes, are you mechuyev to rekindle it? What's the reason also l'shtamish liora ner? So one of the Amoraim said it over in the name of Rav. So Shmuel heard it. So Shmuel said, why? Kedusha yesh bo. What, Ner Chanukah has Kedusha? Why should it be also the Shtamish Le'or Ner? So the Gemara says it's not because of Kedusha, also the Shtamish Le'or Ner, because Bizoyan HaMitzvah. The Gemara quotes, how do you know there's a din you're not allowed to do a mitzvah, not allowed to be mevaza a mitzvah? The Pasuk has a din of Kisei Hadam. When the Shecht Chaya B'of, when the Shecht Behemoth is no din of Kisei Hadam. Shecht Chaya B'of, chickens, turkeys. So the Shechet stands there for an hour, his turn, and then he shechts many more than 60 chickens in an hour. Could even eat more than 120 chickens in an hour. They have a guy hold the chicken, and the Shechet just has to do a little slit on the neck. 1, 2, 3. So they have to have a guy hold it, that it shouldn't flap the wings, and the Shechet just comes. They probably do more than 120 an hour. So after the hour is up, then he does Kisei Adam. You don't have to do Kisei Adam after every bird when you're going to leave. To have him stand there for more than an hour, he'll probably go out of his mind. So you get they take turns. A different sheikh is going to take over. The Chatchila, there's a machlokes in Tosfos. Are you allowed to talk? Are you allowed? Let's say when you eat food, you say Shakal Ni B'Dvara, you start eating the chicken. So then after you swallow, then you're allowed to talk. But if you talk in between the bracha and the first bit that you swallow, then you have to repeat the bracha. So let's say a person is going to shecht 120 chickens, and he says a bracha ala shchita, and he talks before he shechts the first chicken. He has to repeat the bracha again. The bracha doesn't relate because he was mapsik. The same thing, you're blowing shofar. So he said the bracha, the shema called shofar, and you talk before you hear the first tkiyah. So you have to say the bracha again. The bracha is not mitzurif. But if you talk in the middle of the tkiyas, that's middle of one mitzvah, then then there's a question. We pass when you don't have to repeat the bracha. What if you're repeating the mitzvah many times over? It's not that he's doing the tkiyas, the malchus one shofars is all one big mitzvah till the end of the whole tkiyah shofar. So if you're talking in the middle of the mitzvah, you have to repeat the bracha. What if you're doing 120 mitzvah, repeating the same mitzvah 120 times? So for sure, you're not allowed to talk in between the bracha and the shechita of the first chicken. If you did, you have to say over. What if you talk after the 50th chicken? You can go out of your mind not to talk for a whole hour. So what they do, the first couple minutes, they restrain themselves, they don't talk. Then they start talking hilcha shechita. Otherwise, they go out of their mind. Just keep on shechting chickens for a whole hour without saying a word. So so there's a din of Kisei Adam. So the Gemara learns out from the pasuk, "V'shachatz dama v'chiso b'ofar." The same hand that he did the shechita with, b'mesh v'shachat hu yechasa. He did the shechita with his hand. He should do the Kisei Adam with his hand. There's sawdust on the floor. He can really keep on shechting and kick with his foot, kick some of the sawdust, and let it cover over the dam. So the Gemara says that's a bizoi mitzvah. You shouldn't do the mitzvah in such a night. That's doing the mitzvah in a bizoin dik oif. And here we're talking, he lit the candles, it was very bekovedik. Then he's gonna look at the money to see what it is. So he has a book, he can't see what it is. Then he sees what it says on the book. So the Gemara said that's a bizoi mitzvah. Rashi, that's how the Gemara says. The reason why Shmuel said, why ner kedusha yesh bo? Why are you not allowed to get hana from the ner? Doesn't have kedusha. It's a mitzvah, so why aren't you allowed to get it? So the Gemara seems to say the reason why is because bizui mitzvah. Rashi says a different reason in the beginning of the discussion. Rashi says because the whole mitzvah of Avok Neres Chanukah is to get pirsumini. So if the guy's going to be reading something, they'll think they don't realize that that's an Ner Chanukah. They'll think he has a candle. In order to be able to read something, he doesn't want to sit in the dark. So you're not allowed to be mishtamish le'or ner. In order that should be a heker, there should be persumei nisa. There could be an afkamina lahalacha between these reasons. The Rishonim talk about it. What if he wants to look in a sefer? So that's not a bizui mitzvah. To look at the money to see what denomination it is, he can say that's a bizui mitzvah. But to use the or ner to check something, he wants to look on a sefer to see what the din is about something. So then maybe there's no bizui mitzvah over there. But if it's an issue of lack of pisumei nisa, so then it won't be pisumei nisa. People think that it lit a candle in order to be able to read. And then we say, Haneres halalu kodeshem eglanu shus l'shtamish b'hem. That's against the Bavli. The Gemara said, "V'chener kedusha yesh bo." Gemara seems to hold that Ner Chanukah doesn't have any kedusha. That's the Bavli. The Masechah Sofrim, where the text of Aneres Alola comes from, Shulchan Aruch quotes it. Masechah Sofrim was composed by the Gaonim in Eretz Yisrael. They were yeshivas in Eretz Yisrael and in Bavel. The name of the yeshiva was Yeshivas Gaon Yaakov, the pride of the Jewish people. Gaon is Lashon Gaiva, the pride of the Jewish people. And the Rosh HaYeshiva, the fundraiser, was called Rosh Yeshivas Gaon Yaakov. So it's a long title. So they used to call them the kids, so they're Goyim. Some of them were Goyim, some of them were not such great Goyim. So some of the Goyim, we want to know what they said. Others, we don't care what they say. We can easily disagree with them. Some of them are not so successful raising funds either. They weren't good fundraisers, they weren't good learners either. But there are famous ones. So the Masechah Sofrim was written by the Goynei Eretz Yisrael based on the Shittas of the Yerushalmi. That's what the Magen Avram writes in Hilchos Kriyas HaTorah. A lot of times there are contradictions between the Gemara and the Masechah Sofrim, and the Masechah Sofrim represents the Shittas of the Goynei Eretz Yisrael. So that's a different Shitta, that the reason why also the Shtamas are on there, because we treat it as if it's the nearest of the menorah in the Beis HaMikdash. And there was a lot of Kodesh, Ve'in Lon and Rishus, the Shtamish B'hem. The idea of Pesumei Nisa is very significant in connection with Hadlok and Neres Chanukah. The Gemara says we have a klal with respect to dinam mitzvahs deraisa. Women are not obligated to observe mitzvahs asay shahazman grama. So the women are not obligated to shake a lulav, to wear tefillin, to wear tzitzis. Mitzvahs asay shahazman grama. So Rashi holds that klal only applies to dinam deraisa. Taisus and brachas. Daf Chafal Beis. Tais disagrees with Rashi. No, it applies even to mitzvahs the Rabbanan. So Taisus explains, the Gemara says that the women are mechuyev in Heseda, to eat in a leaning position on Pesach night by the Seder. Women are mechuyev in Ner Chanukah and in Mikra Megillah, because Afen Hoi B'Yasad Nes. So the Chasam Sofer has a tshuva where he's bothered. Someone asked him a kasha. He says he should wear tefillin. The mantia teros Hashem beficha. Tefillin is Zechel Nes. We should remember the Nes of the Siyas Mitzrayim. So why don't we say that women are mechuyev to wear tefillin? Because often Nes, that women were involved in the Siyas Mitzrayim also. So Chasam Sofer gives an answer. He explains the answer. Rav Moshe Soloveitchik said the same answer, but he gave a name to the baby. He coined an expression. So he said sometimes there's a mitzvah that's a Zechel Nes, and sometimes the mitzvah is Pirsumei Nisa. Women are only mechuyev in a mitzvah says Shazman Grama if it's Pirsumei Nisa. So Pirsumei Nisa is Mikra Megillah, Neres Chanukah, and Hesed on Pesach night. That's Pirsumei Nisa. But to wear tefillin, why is it Pirsumei Nisa? Because you're reading the Megillah, you're telling the whole story. And on Pesach night, you're sitting the Heseda, but you're reading the whole Haggadah, you're telling the whole story. On Chanukah, Rav Soloveitchik thought that reciting Haneros Halal Kodeshem is Ma'akeh B'Di'evit. He thought if you don't say Haneros Halal, you're not Yotzei. So in his shul in Boston, when they light Neres Chanukah between Mincha and Ma'ariv, they don't have a pause to sing Mo'oz Tzur. Mo'oz Tzur is a piyut, beautiful. Mo'oz Tzur Yeshua Si. So they don't sing Mo'oz Tzur. Has everybody sing together Haneros Halalu. He thought that that's Ma'akeh B'Di'evit. You want to have Pirsumei Nisa, so you have to tell what the Nes was all about. When you wear tefillin, you don't have to tell the whole story. So tefillin is Zechel Nes. Mantir Teros Hashem Beficha. You can say Zechel Nes, but it's not Pirsumei Nisa. So that's basically what the Chasam Sofer answers, but he doesn't have the two terms, Zechel Nes versus Pirsumei Nisa. He said the same thing. But then Rav Moshe Soloveitchik added on one knetch that the Chasam Sofer doesn't have. You only recite the bracha Shas Nisim Lavaseinu when you're performing a mitzvah that's Pirsumei Nisa. So when you read the Megillah, you say Shas Nisim. When you light Neres Chanukah, you say every night, say Shas Nisim. And on Pesach night, when you do the Haseba, we don't say Shas Nisim, but the Rishonim say that the bracha Asher Giolanu, the Golas Habaseinu Mitzvah Gol Yisrael, takes the place of Shas Nisim. So the only 3 times that you have Shas Nisim is the 3 times when you're doing the mitzvah of Pirsumei Nisa. Who is the Pesumei Nisa for? So the Gemara says, the first, the Rambam says approximately half hour. Approximately the first half hour, the Tarmadoi, there was a Goyish nation who used to sell logs at night, and everybody would go to buy the logs. So Kozman, the Tarmadoi are still there selling logs, that's Adain like also Regel Menashuk. So Rav Soloveitchik understood, or misunderstood, whatever. He thought that the Pesumei Nisa is for the Goyim. So every year he would give another suggestion. How come the Pesumei Nisa on Purim, Pesach is only for the Jews, and how come Chanukah is for the Goyim? He assumed the Rigla, the Tarmadoi, Pesumei Nisa is for them. Everybody else usually assumes Kozman, the Goyim are selling the logs. The Jews are roaming around in the streets to buy the logs. So the Pesumei Nisa and Chanukah is also for the Jews. I don't know why Rav Soloveitchik had this farakshant. Chanukah is Pesumei Nisa for the Goyim, and every year he would give another suggestion. Why do we have Pesumei Nisa? In Shulchan Aruch they assume it's only Pesumei Nisa for the Jews. So they have a discussion. A guy is out of town on business, and he has to light a Chanukah menorah. Where's the Pesumei Nisa? There are no Jews there. Kula, all Goyim there. So they say, no, he's there. He's going to say, has 100% audience participation. However many Jews there are. After the first half hour, there were fewer people in the street. So there will hardly anybody there. But if I'm the only Jew in the whole city, I have 100% audience participation. Audience that is intended for is me. Himself, yeah. So in Shulchan Aruch they assume that Pesumei Nisa is not for the Goyim, it's for the Jews. And they say there is Pesumei Nisa for him. Yeah, the question is, in the days of the Gemara, they used to light the menorah outside, al Pesach Bachutz. So the Pesumei Nisa was for the Bnei Rishus HaRabim. So that's what the Gemara says. He can only be madlik calls manshal calls a regel menashuk. The question, what about Bizman Hazeh? We light inside the house. The Baal HaTosfos said we light inside the house. So do we still have to be makpid to light early, within the first half hour, when in the days of the Gemara the people will be roaming around in the streets? So Tosfos presents that as a machlokes. The Ri is Mekel. The Baal HaTosfos, the Ri Baal HaTosfos is Mekel. That you can light all night long. If you're lighting outside, if it's dark outside, close to the Reg Menashe, nobody's selling any newspapers, nobody's selling any logs, nobody's walking around. Whole city is dead, so you can't light outside. But if you're lighting inside for the Bnei Abayis, so the Bnei Abayis are up the whole night long, so you can light for them. And then Tosfos quotes the Ri Poras. I think they said that was the son of the Rashbam, Rabbi Yosef Poras, Ben Poras Yosef, Ben Poras Alayoyin. So he is called Rabbi Yosef Poras. I think they assume he was the son of the Rashbam. So the Ri Poras disagreed. He thinks that you have to light within the first half hour. But New York doesn't go to sleep. There are always people walking around.
But there's just probably like outside.
Yeah.
Still, nowadays.
Good. So they should light Kozman that people are still roaming around. So in Eretz Yisrael also, it depends which city. A lot of cities are roaming around late at night. Vavel Soloveitchik lived across the street from a movie theater. So he knew when the movies were over and what time everybody is going to leave from the movie theater. So he was makpid to make sure that he had so much oil that would burn till after everybody would leave the movie theater. Because that's when the Pesumei Nisa is going to be. We're going to light the Shkia time, 4:30 or 4:20. But people are roaming around. Everybody's in the office. Either they're home or in their work. You have to light when people are going to come home from work. You have to light, if you want to light, you should be chashush for the Ri Poras, that you should light within the first half hour. And then you should put so much oil, have such a tall candle, that it should burn for a couple of hours. Yeah. It's many generations that the Jews didn't light outside anymore. So this Vasemes quotes from an earlier Chassidish Rebbe. So Vasemes was a Ger Rebbe. So he was the grandson, I think, of the Chidush Harim, first Ger Rebbe. So this Vasemes in his drashas on Chanukah quotes from earlier Chassidish Rebbes. Why don't we light outside? The Jewish section used to be a separate section. The Goyim didn't live together with the Goyim. They didn't have trouble from the Goyim. They had Goyish maids all the time in Europe. So why don't we light the candles outside like we always did? The Gemara says, Mishas ha-sakana, he light inside. But there's no sakana now. How come we don't light outside? So there's Sfasem's quotes, I think, from the Avodas Yisrael. He's quotes from an earlier Chassidish Rebbe that the idea of lighting the Neres Chanukah al Pesach Habayis is to prevent the secular influence from the Yevanim from entering the house. So we put a menorah there. But today we have newspapers in the house, we have the radio, we have the secular influence, you have TV, you have the secular influence is already in the house. You have to light the neres in the house to chase out the secular influence. It's not going to help to put the neres on the door. No. I don't know if that's the halachic reason, but it's an interesting idea. In the days of the Gemara, they had to put in so much oil, b'shas hadlaka, that it would burn kol zman that the people are still walking around. So they had, the Rambam says, Kamochat Tisha, you put in so much oil, you have such a long candle, burn for half an hour, so the people will be walking around for half an hour. What about Bisman Hazeh? We light for the Bnei Abayis. The people outside don't see. Bnei Abayis saw the menorah already. The father is there with his husband and the wife and their 9 children, everybody's there, shine. So what do they have to stare at the menorah for half an hour? They already saw the menorah. So some of the Achronim say that only Bisman HaGemara, where they lit outside, and every 2 minutes someone else is going to come to buy a newspaper, to buy cigars, or to buy logs. The Targum used to sell logs, Rashi says. But Bisman Hazeh that the hadlok is for the Bnei Abayis, so they saw it already. So Shein Genug, so you don't need oil, that it should burn for half an hour. So the Steichemed writes that he, I think it's in the Steichemed, he writes that he was born in Hebron, in Eretz Yisrael, Sephardi, and then he took a Rabbanis and as Bekistan over there, and they had totally different minhagim. Sephardim and Ashkenazim always have different minhagim, had totally different minhagim. He didn't know whether they were correct minhagim or incorrect. So he started corresponding with many Rabbanim. So he corresponded so much, he wrote a whole encyclopedia. He used to correspond with Rab Shlomo Levilna, with the Nitziv, with Tadik Dalim. There are things that we only know from the Steichemed, what the Nitziv's opinion was. What Rab Shlomo Levilna has things that don't appear anywhere else. He printed the letters that they sent him. So he writes, he came to this community, and the women would sell candles for the menorah that wouldn't last for more than 10 minutes. And the money went to the shul. The women were raising money for the shul. So he said it's a machlokes and poskim. Many say you still have to have, even though the hadlok is bifnim for the Bnei Abayis, everybody saw it already. So what, they have to stare at the neres for half an hour? So since many say that you still need a half an hour's worth, so he recommended that they should have longer candles and they should charge more money. So everybody was happy, so the shul made more money. That's what he writes. The shul made more money because they charge more money. On Rosh Chodesh, the Mishnah says you give 4 aliyahs. Every day you give only, whenever you have Kriyas there, give 3 aliyahs. Now Rosh Chodesh Chalamad you have 4 aliyahs, on Yanti you have 5 aliyahs, and Yom Kippur and Shabbos is a machlokes Satanoim, which has 6, which has 7. The Rabbi Kiva thinks that Yom Kippur is on top of the list. Yom Kippur is 7, and Shabbos is 6. We don't follow Rabbi Kiva. We follow Rabbi Shmuel on this, unusual. Follow Rabbi Shmuel, we give 6 aliyahs on Yom Kippur, and 7 aliyahs on Shabbos. So the shaila is Rosh Chodesh Tevis. This year is 2 days Rosh Chodesh. So Rosh Chodesh Tevis, you give 4 aliyahs, but you have to lane from 2 Sefer Torah. You have to lane 1 Sefer Torah for Rosh Chodesh, 1 Sefer Torah for Chanukah. So the question is, which one do you lane first? Should we say Pisumei Nisa Odib, so you should lane Chanukah first, and the first 3 aliyahs should be Chanukah, and the 4th aliyah should be Rosh Chodesh? Or do you say no? Maybe Torah B'Shem Torah Kodim. Maybe Rosh Chodesh should come first. So we pass on halacha, Rosh Chodesh comes first. One opinion is it doesn't in the Gemara, in the end of Megillah, it's a machlokes hamaroim. So one opinion held it doesn't make sense to give the first 2 aliyahs for Rosh Chodesh and then Chanukah is the 4th aliyah. On Chanukah you don't have 4 aliyahs. Chanukah only have 3 aliyahs. Rosh Chodesh should have the 4th aliyah. So Chanukah only has, Mitam Chanukah only have 3, so the first 3 aliyahs You don't have Kriyas HaTorah less than 3 aliyahs. So if you're going to start with Chanukah, you should have the first 3 aliyahs should be Chanukah, then the 4th aliyah should be Rosh Chodesh. So we don't pass like that. When I said the Hilchasa, we pass like the other opinion. Ein Mashgichim Mishal Chanukah. Chanukah comes last. First 3 aliyahs should be Rosh Chodesh, and then the 4th aliyah should be Chanukah. So the shaila is, what if they made a mistake? In the yeshiva there are 25 different minyanim. So every year there's at least one minyan makes a mistake, and they started laning Chanukah first. So what do you do if by mistake you name Chanukah first? So what's the din? Let's say a person says Kiddush. First say Bar Piagof and then they say Kiddush. Well, if the person made a mistake, he starts saying Kiddush first. So he stops in the middle and he says Bar Piagof. No. There's a reason why you should do A and then B. But by mistake you did B and then you did A. If you daven Shemona Esrei Shaloi, the bracha Shaloi al HaSeder, that's a machlekes Rashi and Tosfos. The Gemara says Emtsoyes, the 13 brachas in the middle, Ein Lahem Seder. So Rashi understands the Gemara Kipshut, if he said the 13 brachas out of order, you yotze anyway. Tosfos says, we pass like Tosfos. That's not correct. You're not yotze if you say the 13 brachas out of order, and you have to repeat it again. You have to start from the place where you made the mistake and go in order. But let's say by Kiddush, we're supposed to say Bar Piagofen first, B'Shameh hold first, say Kiddush, then you say Bar Piagofen after. We don't pass on like B'Shameh, but B'Yevet, if you did first Kiddush, and then Bar Piagofen B'Yevet, Yotze. So if he starts, Asher Kiddush HaMasah, so V'Ratzavanu, so finish the bracha of Kiddush, and then say Bar Piagofen afterwards. So over here, by mistake, they started to lane Chanukah first. So the Shulchan Aruch Paschal is like the Abu Dram, that you stop in the middle and you put away the Sefer Torah for Chanukah, and you lay and you go the way you're supposed to. You lay in first 3 aliyahs of Rosh Chodesh, and the bracha that he said in the beginning, bracha levatala, and then you lay in Chanukah at the end. And the other Meforshim disagree with the Abu Dram. The Shulchan Aruch, why should you start all over again? But the evidence ma'akev. It's not, the Seder should not be ma'akev. But the question is, Seder is not ma'akev, so you started by mistake with Chanukah, so you should give 3 aliyahs from Chanukah and 1 aliyah at the end of Rosh Chodesh, or you should give only 1 aliyah. You're supposed to give 3 aliyahs of Rosh Chodesh and the last aliyah Chanukah. So by mistake you started with Chanukah. So maybe only give 1 aliyah on Chanukah, and the next 3 aliyahs should be Rosh Chodesh. So that's a machlokes achronim. So every year in the yeshiva there are 25 different minyans. Every year at least one minyan makes a mistake. This year there are 2 days Rosh Chodesh. You can make a mistake on both days. So the Ikra din is supposed to lane Rosh Chodesh first. Lashon HaGemara, Ein Mashgichem Mishal Chanukah Kolika means, what if by mistake they gave all the 4 aliyahs in Rosh Chodesh? So did they lane a 5th aliyah of Chanukah? So it says no, Ein Mashgichem Mishal Chanukah. You forget about Chanukah. You went to the Kriyas HaTorah of Rosh Chodesh. He gave 4 aliyahs with Rosh Chodesh. I didn't mention before, the Rashba quote, the Ramah quotes the Tshuvas HaRashba, that if you have a toss-up where to light Chanukah licht, so you should light b'makam achila, not b'makam shina. So some people think incorrectly that means you should light in the dining room as opposed to the bedroom. That's not what he means. I looked in the Tshuvas HaRashba, he just has, the whole Tshuvah is only one line. The Ramah quoted the whole Tshuvah. He doesn't explain anything. He's alluding to the sugi in the end of Erevin, where the Gemara talks about Makam Achila versus Makam Shina, Makam Pita, the place where he eats the bread, and Makam Lina, where he sleeps. Which one is Beso? So he means if you have 2 different apartments, but if you have 1 apartment and you sleep there and you eat there, you can light in whichever room will give you more Pirsum and Nisa. There's no insistence that you have to light. That's a misunderstanding. There's no din that you have to light dafka in the dining room as opposed to the bedroom. That's not true. What's the story with reciting Ala Nisim? So the din is that you say Vi Ala Nisim. We thank you both in Shemona Esrei, Bodem Anachnu Loch, we thank you on the Schachter B'choles, Eva Vayke V'tzohar Royim, and then we usually say Hatov Ke L'chol Rachamecha. So the Rambam says when it's Chanukah and Purim, you're going to say the Ala Nisim. You don't say Hatov Ke L'chol Rachamecha. You don't sum up. So we thank you for this, that, and the other thing. V'al anisim ala purkan. You're making it longer over there. And then because it's such a long pause about V'al anisim, it does make sense to sum up later on to say, Atov ki l'chol harachamecha. You had such a... So the Rambam leaves that, Atov ki l'chol harachamecha, on Chanukah and Purim. I thought that's what the Abu Dram says, that you say the whole Moedim, after the whole Moedim is over, then you say V'al anisim. So it doesn't fit in. I think the Rambam makes more sense. Shulchan Aruch, they don't say one way or the other. I don't think they quote it either way in Shulchan Aruch. But I thought more correct is like the Rambam. You should put in V'al anisim before you sum up. Atov ki l'chol harachamecha. So the Gemara has that question. We recite the year after the Ritzochen of the Mechashmenoim, says Lushan Acheres Kvar Masam Yom Tov Mahala B'Hoidor. So they made it a yontif to say V'al anisim in the Shmona Esrei. What about in the Birchas Hamazon on Chanukah? So the Gemara has the shot. The Gemara comes to the conclusion not mechuyev, because you're not mechuyev to eat bread. On Purim, you're probably mechuyev to say V'al anisim in the Birchas Hamazon, because you're mechuyev to have a Sudas Purim. You may mishta v'simcha the chiyev. On Chanukah, there's no chiyev suda. In fact, all the other holidays in Megillah's time, the only one that has a chiyev suda is Purim. In Shulchan Aruch, the only two Yom Tov we have left from the Megillah's time are Chanukah and Purim. So in Shulchan Aruch, they posed the question: how come on Purim there's a chiyev suda, and Chanukah there's not? But it's a bigger question: how come on all 24 the other Yom Tov in Megillah's time there's no chiyev suda, only on Purim? So they give. So some give the correct explanation. The Goyim give the explanation that the reason why Purim there's a chiyev suda and the other 24 Yom Tov in Megillah's time does not is because Purim is like Shavuos, Yom Shenitim B'Torah, because the Gemara says Kima v'Kiblu, Kima Mashi Kiblu Kvar. On the occasion of Nes Purim, there was a new Kabbalah Torah, and the Gemara says in Psachim on Shavuos Hakal Moedim. There's a machlokes hatanaim, Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua. How should one celebrate Pesach or Sukkot? Because there's a contradiction between the two psukim. One pasuk says Atzeres Tielachem, and one pasuk says Atzeres L'Hashem Elokecha. Should you dedicate the whole day to learning and davening, or should you and only eat a little bit quickly, or should you dedicate the whole day to eating, drinking, and making merry, and you daven a little bit? So that's a steer between the two psukim. So that's a machlokes of Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua. What do you do when you have shnei ksuvim hamakrishim zeh? And there is no kosav hashlishi sheachriya b'neihem. So Rabbi Lezer understands it's optional. You can do either A or B. The Gemara has it in brachas. When we learned brachas last year, we found it. The same machlokes on lamed hey on the base. You have shnei ksuvim hamakrishim zeh. There is no kosav hashlishi. So the sheet of it is the same as Rabbi Lezer. You choose optional either A or B. We don't pass like that. Even though there is no kosav hashlishi, we make our own compromise. So you say chalkeu chetzel Hashem v'chetzel lachem. So the Gemara says even though it's a machlokes on Pesach and on Sukkot, but Hakal Moedim Batzeres on Shavuos, all the Tanaim agree you have to have elaborate meals because Yom Shenitim B'Torah. You have to celebrate the fact of Kabbalah Torah. One might have mistakenly thought that Yom Shenitim B'Torah you should learn all day long. The Gemara says no, Yom Shenitim B'Torah you have to celebrate and eat, have more elaborate meals than on Pesach and on Sukkot. So that's what the Goyim said. The reason why there's a chiyev suda on Purim and none of the other Yom Tov on Megillah's time says there's a chiyev suda because Yom Shenitim B'Torah, because Kimu v'Kiblu. The Taz gives a different explanation, but that's what the Goyim said. The Mordechai quotes that from the Goyim, Yom Shenitim B'Torah. So the Gemara on Purim there's a chiyev suda. So of course you should say V'al anisim. On Chanukah there is no chiyev suda. The Gemara said therefore you're not mechuyev to say Al anisim in the benching. If you say it, it won't be a hepsik. So the meaning is that we choose to say it. It's not a hepsik, so we choose to say it. So the Magen Avraham has a shaila on Shabbos Chanukah. You have to say the benching, and you have to say V'al anisim, and you have to say Ritzei. The Gemara in Brachas has a shaila.
The longest benching of the year.
One is the longest benching of the year.
Yeah.
So Rosh Chodesh Tevis Shechali is b'Shabbos. So you say Ritzei and Yalav Yaveh. Ritzei because Shabbos, Yalav Yaveh because it's Rosh Chodesh, and Al Anisim. So Tos said that's the longest benching of the whole year. The Gemara discusses What if a person is nervous and he's going to hold a cup of wine? He's benching mezuzah, he's going to hold a cup of wine, he's going to spill it. Is he allowed to hold it a little bit with the left hand? So to hold the right hand with the left hand, that's mutter. Is he allowed to hold small moushut to sayeya? Can he hold the cup a little bit with the left hand? The Gemara says no, you have to hold it with the right hand. So I said, what's the problem? They say, oh, it's Rosh Chodesh Teves Shechaliyas B'Shabbos, the longest bench of the year, and it's hard to hold the cup for so long. So that was the Shaila in the Gemara. So the din is on Chanukah, you're not mechuyev to say al anisim and the benching only Shemona Esrei mechuyev, but if you want to, you may. It's permissible. And the minhag is that we do say. So the question is, let's say it's Shabbos Chanukah, and he benched after the meal, and he said v'al anisim, and he got so exhausted with saying al anisim, he forgot to say ritzei. He has to repeat the benching again. So when he repeats the benching, does he have to say al anisim a second time? Or was it good enough that he said al anisim the first time? So the Magen Avraham says you're not mechuyev to say a second time, because a minhag is not binding on a davar she'eino motzei. How often does that happen that you have to bench twice after the same meal? Very rarely. The first time he forgot ritzei, you have to bench again. But here, the first time he said al anisim, he forgot ritzei. Then he has to bench again a second time. That's a davar she'eino motzei. Minhag is not binding on a davar she'eino motzei. So Rav Soloveitchik explained, where did the Magen Avraham get that from? He doesn't tell you. But he got it from, I think the Netziv maybe points out in the Shultis. He says he got it from the Rambam. The Rambam writes in Hilchos Treifus, there are certain sicknesses in the animal that are treifim in Torah. Certain cases treifim in the Rabbanan. In certain cases where it's a treifim minig. The minig is minig hamdina yaserit, even though min adin mikra adin is not a treif. What if there's a certain disease in the animal, and the minig hamakam is that you treat it like a treifa, but this disease comes up very rarely. So the Rambam says such a minig is not binding, because minig is only binding b'davar harogel, b'davar hamotzi. If it's something that hardly ever comes up, minig is not binding. Why is it not binding? So Moshe Soloveitchik explained why. That's Rav Soloveitchik's father explained why. The Rambam seems to hold that minhagim are only binding if they're minhagim hatzibur. Minig hayachid, the Gemara said minig is like a neder. So the Rambam, so all the other Rishonim, there's a Ran in the Dorim and Daf Pei and Beis. Ran quotes the Balei HaTorah. He says that minig is binding mitam neder. Minator neder is only binding if you have levate b'sasam if you say it. If you do something a few times, let's say a person walks behind the Sefer Torah when the Chazan carries Sefer Torah. He goes along with the Sefer Torah. So if you do it 3 times in a row, that demonstrates that you plan to continue like that. Let's say b'li neder. So if you do it 3 times in a row, or you did it once and you plan to continue, so then it's binding. Meaning is binding mitam neder midirabbanan. That's the way we usually assume. So the Rambam in the Tshuva doesn't write like that. Rambam says you're allowed to observe a minig. Why isn't it bal taisif? So he says to take a neder in a certain sense is bal taisif. The Mesilas Yesharim quotes that from the Yerushalmi. Lo dayechem asher asra lecha Torah, not enough what the Torah told you what you shouldn't do. Asher Torah solecha dvarim hamatorim. Who told you to take a neder? Every neder that you take smacks from bal taisif, but strictly speaking, a neder is mutter. So the Rambam says that's the pshat. Minig is like a neder. Neder smacks from bal taisif, but it isn't strictly speaking it's mutter. So you're permitted to observe a minig. A yochid has a minig. It's permitted to observe a minig, and there's no violation of bal taisif. But you're not obligated to observe the minig. The Rambam thinks only obligated to observe the minig if it's a minig at tzibur. Why? Because if it's a davar harogel, davar hamotzi, it'll be a parish midake at tzibur. There's an isa parish midake at tzibur. The Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva writes a whole list of people. So one of them is a parish midake at tzibur. So the Rabbi asks, what avera did he do? He's worshipping avodah zarah. So he said that already. What does it mean? So the answer is no. Parish Medak HaTzibur, he observes all the dinim, but he doesn't go along with the community. Emach Shabbos Vazich, the expression is in Yiddish. He's all alone, he doesn't join the community. That itself is an Isa. Parish Medak HaTzibur is itself an Isa. So if you're not going to observe the Minig HaTzibur, that'll be a violation of Parish Medak HaTzibur. But that's only if it's a Dover HaRogel. If it's once every 30 years, an issue comes up like that. A rare treifa that hardly ever comes up. You can't say it's not nicker, it's not noticeable. It comes up so rarely. So that Magen Avraham, who says that if it's a dovish and a rugel, that you have to bench a second time after the same meal, because if you would say you don't have to bench, you don't have to say Ala Nisim the second time. That's going probably with the Rambam Shita, that only a binik hatzibur is binding because it's parish medarki hatzibur. But we really don't pass like that. And you're there, we pass on. So that's why all that when disagree that Magen Avraham. They say even if you forgot Ritzei on Shabbos Chanukah and you have to bench the second time, you have to say Ala Nisim the second time also. Because we hold that the minig is binding mitam neder, not that it's binding mitam parish medarki hatzibur. So we scratched the surface a little bit in Hilchos Chanukah. Okay. Should all have a pleasant Chanukah.